What's going on, guys? So today I'm going to talk about why Bitcoin has dropped so much in 2018 and how that relates to the global markets in general. So it's clear how kind of Bitcoin has gone up in this last year, especially it's almost a year and a half now, 2 years. And there's a lot of questions, and I've seen things like people are saying, oh, there was a research report on Tether getting manipulated, and they say Bitcoin's price is manipulated. They think the CME is manipulating all this. And I honestly disagree with a lot of that. And it's simply, and I'm going to show you the evidence why, because Bitcoin is essentially connected to the global market. And it's very, very simple to see what it is. But the same stuff going on globally right now is not really looked at too widely by most financial news sources, and people just aren't really aware of it. So that's why I'm saying I think the same thing applies for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is now all over the world. Everybody uses it. It has a use value. I know people say it's either supposed to go to the moon or it's going to go to zero. There's no in between. But I think with that polarizing effect, it's been clear that I don't think Bitcoin's going to go anywhere. And when you understand the use value, it'll make sense. And I'll even tell you guys, I guess, where it starts for me is with China. So I do a lot of business in China. I work with real estate funds out there. I know one of the biggest families out there, and I help them with their investments. And when it comes to what's going on there, it has effect on the United States stock market. Go check, if we look back at 2015 even, this was the first time in the last 5 years, this is where China started to affect us. And this was a time where people said, no, China doesn't affect us at all, but it indeed did. And, people were expecting a hard landing from China, which, if you don't know what that means, it's pretty much saying that they expected the economy to just kind of stop overnight, really. But things recovered, Chinese intervention, yada, yada, yada. But now, how does that relate to Bitcoin? Because the Chinese stock market and emerging markets now, it goes beyond just China. There's countries like Malaysia, the Philippines, Korea, especially Korea when it comes to Bitcoin, and they are all getting hurt. Even Brazil, Venezuela, these emerging markets, India, the countries that have a higher use value than us Americans and Europeans who are making money off the speculation. And if there's higher use value to those people there, where their currencies fluctuate in value a lot and they need that security. That's why they went to Bitcoin. But now we're going to look at some of the currencies, and I'm going to show you guys what's going on. But really, the most biggest piece of evidence you could look at is the Shanghai Composite. This is China's stock market. In the last year, even since January alone, the market is down about 15%. It's hitting new levels. I think it's breaching under the levels it was at in 2015, what I just showed you guys here on the chart. This is the United States stock market, but they dropped even more than that. So, putting this into context, it's the same exact time frame of when Bitcoin started to drop, around late December, early January, and then coming into February, you saw everything kind of go to shit. And that it's all aligned. And now the reason why is because they are one of the biggest uses of the demand and of Bitcoin. And as well, it's just the global economy and people's money and wealth in general. And this is where, again, a lot of that demand was coming from Bitcoin. And then now you even mix it in with what happened with the quote unquote, some called it FUD, but it was the bans from these Chinese governments and these Asian countries that weren't just really down with Bitcoin. And again, it really resembles what China does in general, which is this boom and bust cycle. When China and these Asian countries, their financial systems aren't as developed as ours. So when they come in and take a look at 2014, 15, this is right before that crash in 15. What did it do before it crashed? Well, the market almost doubled. It actually went more than double. Imagine the S&P 500 now doubling in what? Less than a year, about August, September, October, like 8 months about then. And that's what happened. Why? Is because, they like money. They really like the financial markets. A lot of people in China work a lot more than here. So if they have an opportunity to make money off investments, they take it. And it's a frenzy. There's just so many people and their systems aren't designed like ours. And even then, even if I think that many Chinese people invested in our market, we might see the same thing. But it's a boom and bust cycle. So let me show you guys this, and maybe this will give you a little bit more insight. Here is Shanghai over the last 5 years, right? Here's Bitcoin over the last year. Let me just go back and forth. Tell me this doesn't accurately, literally, it's a mirror image. You're getting the same concept. Again, the jump might not be as much. Well, $7,000 to $17,000, $20,000, or even what, 3,000. It's about 7 times, which is crazy. But here, I guess 7,000 to 21,000. That's about 2-3 times, which is what we saw here. Hits that, and this is also the same look of what's it called? The same look of just in general the market psychology of a boom and bust. But you see, Shanghai and China and Bitcoin are actually very closely comparable. Even if we go look at it in the last year, here's China, and again, this is the last year on Bitcoin alone. Obviously, when we go on the all chart, or if we wanted to look 5 years back, we would get different data. Because again, it did go from what, $1,000 to 20,000, 19,000 times, 19 times over. So that is the biggest thing right there. Now, going back, like I said, China's dropped 50. The whole Chinese stock market has dropped 15% in this last year. What do you think is going to happen to Bitcoin? But now, as even more evidence to stuff going on globally, here is your iShares MSCI Emerging Markets Index, which is showing you the rest of the emerging markets. China's more developed, but they kind of fall in that category with a lot of the shares in the, that they include. And, all those other countries I listed, this is them since 2018. They ran up, everything kind of had that Bitcoin rise, and then it's down. This is down about, I think, 17-18% on the year. So, and again, they're all hitting new lows. So it's not really to say, okay, something's going on with Bitcoin, as opposed there's something going on with the global economies that are heavily involved with Bitcoin. I don't think it has anything to do with the underlying structure of Bitcoin, manipulation, anything like that. As it is, these other countries are just going crazy and are kind of imploding. Here's the Chinese dollar and yuan, and this explains too, it's weakened almost like 4 or 5%, which is huge for a global currency. These are supposed to be more stable than Bitcoin. And, even the dollar has dropped, and that's another thing new to take into consideration. From 2018, it was kind of going up when Bitcoin was going up. It was kind of trying to recover, but then it dropped. And when the dollar gets cheaper, things get more expensive. Stuff like oil and the stock market, and theoretically, it should have made Bitcoin go up, but that's the thing. There's this whole connection of items. As other items go up in price, it's changing the value of what you could get for something. And then again, when you're seeing the dollar drop 5-10%, you're seeing the South Korean won drop and move a few percentage, strengthening, weaken, Chinese yuan, and then Bitcoin going up, doubling, tripling. It's really fucking with value and how things should be priced. And that's where I also think maybe Bitcoin could be contributing to that, and everything else with the global economy of making things kind of get off its footing. But more so, I would blame the other economies as in to having an effect on Bitcoin. So that's the big part right there. Now, obviously, if you could see, if you're familiar with any of this is going to affect the stock market. And that's why I'm saying it's kind of important, and you guys see kind of the analysis I do. But I guess I'll leave it there. Let me leave it there so I could take some questions for you, and we'll go from there. But hopefully you guys kind of get an understanding that, quite simply, Bitcoin isn't dropping for no reason. It's not, there was a bubble, or there was, massive price action and it came down very quickly. There was a lot of speculation, but even when you see the price now, what's going on and everything, it flows too parallel to an emerging market. And I think given the size of Bitcoin, you could consider it an emerging market. And I think that's fair to say. So let me know what you guys think about this. Hopefully that helped you. Let me know your thoughts on Bitcoin. You guys think it's going to zero? You think it's a scam? You think it's going to the moon? Would love to hear your thoughts, and give me questions on this so we could continue off from here. Love y'all. Make sure you subscribe, like the video. Peace.